G'day, it's fugitive Australian journalist Shane Dowling from the website and YouTube channel Kangaroo Court of Australia. Now, I've just published an article in relation to the algae bloom off the South Australian coast, causing a huge fish kill there. No one knows exactly what's happening. They know it's the algae bloom, but why that algae bloom is happening and why it's not going away, no one seems to know at this point. And whether it will go away, no one seems to know. And within that article, there's also a video calling out the South Australian Premier for being a liar, which I'll show you that video, Simon Mulvaney, and also an Instagram account. There's 10 pictures there you can click on to look at the fish that are currently dying on the beaches in South Australia, which gives you a true indication of what's happening there. Now, I'll read that article out to you. And the article's titled, Millions of Fish Killed on the South Australian Coast. What is the cause? And the article is published on Sunday, the 31st of August, 2025. And it starts off, millions of fish and other marine life have been dying along the coast of South Australia since at least March this year, with no end in sight and no solutions on the table. The government is blaming algal bloom, while others are suggesting it could be pollution from a desalination plant. There seems to be a push that it could only be one or the other, with the government ruling out pollution from the desalination plant, and the problem possibly being a combination of both algal bloom and pollution isn't something government seems keen on investigating. In the article, I publish an Instagram account, and all these photos are from today's, the 28th of the 8th, 2025, 600-metre walk along the high tide line at Tennyson Beach in Adelaide, the person says. And I'll put some of those pictures up on the screen now. Otherwise, you can go to the website, click on that article, and you can click on the Instagram account. My article goes on to say, algal bloom. On the 24th of March 2025, The Conversation published an article titled, Mystery Solved. Our tests reveal the tiny algae killing fish and harming surfers off South Australian beaches, which starts off confronting images of dead sea dragons, fish and octopuses washed up on South Australian beaches, and disturbing reports of more than 100 surfers and beachgoers suffering flu-like symptoms after swimming or merely breathing in sea spray, attracted international concern last week. Speculation about the likely cause ranged from pollution and algae to unusual bacterial infections or viruses. Today we can reveal the culprit was a tiny but harmful type of planktonic algae called Carina micomotoi. The South Australian government sent us water samples from Waitpinga Beach, Petrel Cove Beach, Encounter Bay Boat Ramp and Parsons Headland on Tuesday. We studied the water under the microscope and extracted DNA for genetic analysis. Our results revealed high numbers of tiny harmful algae species, each just 20 microns in diameter, where 1 micron is a thousandth of a millimetre. While relatively common in Australian coastal waters, blooms of K. micomotoi occur only sporadically. But similar harmful algae blooms and fish kills due to K. micomotoi have happened in the past, such as the 2014 bloom, Coffin Bay, South Australia, and the latest one won't be the last. Unanswered questions remain. The question for many people is whether increasing water temperatures make blooms of K. micomotoi more likely. Another concern is whether nutrient runoffs from farms, cities and aquaculture could cause more harmful algal blooms. Unfortunately, for Australia at least, the answer to these questions is we don't know yet. While we know some harmful algal blooms do increase when nutrient runoff is higher, others actually prefer fewer nutrients or colder temperatures. ABC reported on the 29th of August 2025. Part of the problem is researchers are still struggling to tell exactly what is they're fighting. We actually don't know yet with certainty the ingredients of the bloom-forming species, she says. This makes it hard to say what has caused and exacerbated the bloom. For instance, while researchers generally think warmer waters could be a driver, there may be species in the water that prefer the cold. The Guardian reported on the 29th of August 2025, South Australia's algal bloom probably started in January and over months has grown to more than 4,500 square kilometres. By March, surfers complained of mysterious sea foam along with irritated eyes and hacking coughs. The algae species responsible was identified as Carina micomotoi. By July, it had hit metropolitan beaches. Suddenly, many more people were witnessing the foam, the piles of seaweed, as kelp died off and the animal deaths. Carina micomotoi is non-toxic to humans, although it can cause eye, nose and throat irritation, but it has proved catastrophic for fish and marine animals. The iNaturalist site has logged over 34,000 dead animals from about 480 different species. We don't see it stopping any time soon, Bennett says. Satellite imagery has shown the bloom continuing to pulsate, dashing hopes the winter would see it off. The science says the bloom was caused by an ongoing marine heat wave, a phenomenon likely to become more common with global heating, as well as nutrients in the water from the 2022-2023 Murray-Darling Basin floods, an upwelling of colder water towards the surface. But there are still many unknowns. And I make the comment, if nutrients in the water from the 2022-23 Murray-Darling Basin floods are part of the problem, that opens up a whole new can of worms the government doesn't seem keen on exploring. For example, what nutrients in the water and where did they come from? Farms, for example? Pollution from the desalination plant at Lonsdale. In the video I'm about to show you, environmentalist Simon Mulvaney from Save the Bees Australia calls out South Australian Premier for lies about dying fish. And I'll show you that video now.
To Peter Malinakis, and I'm going to show you why he is lying. This was in 2024.
Infrastructure investment in our state's history.
A $5 billion desalination plant and pipeline near Tumby Bay on the Eyre Peninsula, pumping water 600 kilometres from the Spencer Gulf to thirsty mines, mainly BHP, which wants to significantly grow copper production.
We need a reliable and commercially competitive supply of water.
The mega project could lead to enough kickback from royalties and fourth.
So this is a huge project. This isn't a normal desal plant. This is a humongous one they've made for BHP and mining. So taking that into note, just keep in this context that when we've had these fish die-offs before overseas, they've had a lot to do with desal plants, particularly in Saudi Arabia. So this is an organised commercial TV panel, and they've got a media plant here. And come and have a look.
Frankly, a lot of people are talking about, have a listen.
Where did it come from? They're saying climate change, but I have to be honest, there's a lot of talk in the community about that Chinese ship that went up and down the coast.
So she's a media plant there to confuse you, and they want you to be thinking conspiracy theory, and they want you to align that the desal plant is a conspiracy theory, when it definitely isn't.
Around, have they been looked at and have they been managed to be explained away?
Yeah, each have been thoroughly examined, and every time we hear an idea coming from the community, it is looked at, but we can say with absolute confidence, without qualification, that the desal plant and Chinese warships have nothing to do with this. It started from that tweet.
He bundled conspiracy theories with desalination there, and that's because he wants you to think that desalination and conspiracy theory are connected when they definitely aren't.
Flood, bigger since 1956, along with the other nutrients coming into the water. Then there was the marine heat wave, and then the other element that is required beyond heat and nutrients for the algae to thrive is sunlight. And we've seen a disproportionate...
So that's absolute bullshit. Like, sunlight does not cause algae blooms. They'd be happening everywhere in the world. So he's going on a rant here, but he finishes with an absolute lie again. And so I'll just play this out.
...a large amount of sunlight in April, May, which is consistent with the drought. Less rain, less cloud cover, more light, and that allows the algae to bloom. But in fact, just on the desal plant, it's interesting. The science tells us that the Karenia micomytoi, the algae, performs less well as the salinity goes up. So if the theory is that the desal plant is increasing salinity in our water, and that's causing the algal bloom, the opposite is in fact true. So these myths, these are genuine concerns that people raise.
So that's where the absolute bullshit is. You can Google it, you can see desalination plants around the world, particularly in Saudi Arabia, cause these events. Why this is so important is WA is about to build a massive desal plant.
In the video I just showed you, Simon Mulvaney says a desalination plant killed fish in Saudi Arabia, which is true. The BBC reported in January 2019, desalination plants around the world are pumping out far more salt-laden brine than previously believed, according to a new study. The salty effluent is a byproduct of efforts to extract fresh water from the sea. Researchers have found the plants are now producing 50% more of this chemical-laden cocktail than expected. The brine raises the level of salinity and poses a major risk to ocean life and marine ecosystems. The problem with all this hyper-salty water is that often it contains other contaminants and can pose a significant threat to marine life. The salt level in the seawater is further increased because of the disposal of the concentrate brine, said Dr. Manzoor Qadir from the UN University Institute for Water, Environment and Health, one of the study's authors. There is an increase in the temperature of this zone of the sea. Together they decrease the dissolved oxygen level, which is called hypoxia, and that impacts on aquatic life in the zone. Hypoxia often leads to what are called dead zones in the oceans. Scientists say that these zones have quadrupled since 1950, mainly as a result of climate change. Now the salt is adding to these problems. High salinity and reduced dissolved oxygen levels can have a profound impact on the benthic organisms, which can translate to ecological effects which can be observed throughout the food chain, said the lead author Edward Jones at Wageningen University in the Netherlands. South Australia's current and proposed desalination plants. South Australia has a desalination plant at Lonsdale that is owned and operated by South Australian Water, and the South Australian government has committed $100 million to investigate a $5 billion proposal to deliver a desalination plant in partnership with the BHP via the Northern Water Supply Project. The South Australian government and BHP have invested a lot of money in the proposed desalination plant and have even more riding on it being approved. So they have a huge incentive to make sure that the cause of the fish kill is not the current desalination plant. In the above video, South Australian Premier Peter Malinauskas is certain the desalination plant has nothing to do with the fish kill. But how would he know, given the above BBC report, which says there is an increase in the temperature in this zone of the sea? Together they decrease the dissolved oxygen level, which is called hypoxia, and that impacts on aquatic life in that zone. If the current desalination plant is linked to the fish kill, then the government and BHP would have trouble moving forward with the proposed $5 billion Northern Water Supply Project, and the government would be liable for millions of dollars and possibly billions in compensation for all the businesses that have lost income because of the fish kill. The federal and state governments have already pledged the $28 million package, which spans science and research, cleanups, industry and community support and communications. And every day it continues, more money will be needed. There are a lot of questions to be answered, and every possibility needs to be investigated in full. South Australian Premier Peter Malinauskas doesn't seem the right person to be in charge if we want to get to the truth. Now, I thought I'd do a video, an article on that topic, because doesn't seem to be a solution anywhere in the near future. And the government seems to be ducking and weaving a lot. They don't really know what's happening. So the government shouldn't be shooting off their mouth ruling out the desalination plant. It might be the key reason. I'm not saying it is, but it quite possibly is a part of the problem, at least, where the nutrients are coming from, helping the algal bloom grow. Well, that needs to be fully investigated, and the government doesn't seem keen on that either. Anyhow, please do your bit and help shine a light on corruption and share this video on social media. Please hit the like and subscribe button and notification button. That way you get notified every time I publish a new video. And Kangaroo Court of Australia's independent media. I'm an independent journalist and I'm 100% crowdfunded from viewers like yourself, which helps me produce these videos and articles. So it'd be greatly appreciated if you make a donation via PayPal or Patreon. You can donate any amount, $3, $5, $10, $15, $20, $30, $40, $50 a month, whatever suits your budget. It all helps out in a big way. Or you can do one-off donations. And you can visit my website, Kangaroo Court of Australia, and click on the donations page for other donation options. Other than that, thank you for your time and have a good day.